Hey everybody, welcome back to the series. We're talking about peer-to-peer in the JCI engineering class that we're got going on. So what is peer-to-peer? Peer-to-peer is when BACnet devices can talk with each other without going through a supervisor. So if you have one controller and you want to share points with another controller, you can do that via peer-to-peer without setting anything up in the supervisor level. This allows you to share fan status, room temp, any kind of points from one controller to another controller without having to do anything in the supervisor. So you don't have to link mark in the supervisor. If the supervisor happens to go down, as long as the one controller can see the other controller on the network or via other networks, then you're good. The communication will remain even with the supervisor down. So that's a good thing about peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer, you could do two different ways. There's a push method where you set up peer-to-peer on the outbound reference, so you're pushing the information from the controller that has the information to the controller that needs the information. Or there's a pull method. The pull is where you have the controller that needs the information, and it's pulling the information out of the controller that has the information. The difference is, in JCI, the push method, you're limited to 15 peer-to-peer outputs on a single controller, where the pull method is you're limited to 50. So you could do a lot more with the pull method. You have pull and push. Both of them, you'll need to know the BACnet instance numbers of the controllers that you need to talk to and the object ID of the point that you want to share. In JCI, you'll see it if you're pulling the information, you'll see it in the top left-hand corner. If you're pushing the information, you'll see it in the top right-hand corner. And then in the middle here, we're just showing what you need. You need the object identifier, you need the device ID of the point that you're going to peer-to-peer. Let's look and see how we can do this. So here is a controller that I actually have a stat on. It has a zone temp, zone set point, and zone set point, zone temp, and zone humidity. So let's look at each one of these. On the zone humidity, if we double click, we get our object identifier right here. We write this down. We need to write down AV10024. Okay, and that's for zone temp. Zone set point, we'll write down this AV10021. And then on zone humidity, we'll write down AV10017. Okay, the only other piece of information we need from this controller is the BACnet ID. So if we go to define hardware and go to network settings, we can see our BACnet ID instance number is 1000, 3 zeros and a 4. So now we can build a file, new VAV, and I'm just going to build it like I would have a fan on or a set point with humidity. There we go. Next, finish. Now, here's what I'm going to do. On this controller, we have a humidity, zone set point, and zone temp. But I'm going to take these and make them network inputs. So up here at the network, I'm going to hit that little plus button. I'm going to do input float. I'm going to name it a little bit differently. That'll help me find it and connect it better. So I'm going to do a zone temp. I'm also going to do a zone set point. And I'm also going to do a zone humidity. All right, so now on the zone temp, double click into it, and here's what I need. I need to hit the edit. Down here in the peer-to-peer, I need to find AV, which is going to be analog value. And we're looking for AV10024. off of 10004. I'll go ahead and set the units as degrees Fahrenheit and hit apply. Now if you see, we have a little emblem here that shows that this is now peer-to-peer. This little multicolored emblem shows that this is being peer-to-peered by another device. I'm going to do the same thing for my set point. I'm looking for AV 10021 and 10004. I'll go ahead and do this as degrees Fahrenheit as well. Apply. Good. And now finally my zone humidity. And that is AV 10017 off of 10004. And this is just percent. Okay. I'll go ahead and do a step further. I'm going to show you how to make the connections. Up here, see this little triangle right here? That's showing that there's no connections to the outputs. To do that, I'm going to come down here to the zone temperature, and under my connections tab here at the bottom, I see that it's connected to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. I can get there easily by clicking the hyperlink. I find ZN-T right here on the left-hand side. I follow it over to the yellow process variable. I'll right-click there and change my connection. I'm going to select my zone input, zone temp, the one I just created. And then I'm going to repeat this process 5 more times. So I'm going to go back to zone temp, come over here, click, go down and find zone temp, process variable, change connections, zone temp, ZN-T, or we'll adjust. As you see, each time we click on it, it's getting smaller and smaller. That's because it's adding all the connections up here to my network input. These hyperlinks make it really easy and really fast to get by. We used to not have these. On the earlier versions of CCT, you would have to just match the names. But now they're all hyperlinked, which makes it a lot easier to do. Here we go. Last one. Now we're going to go back and verify. Now there's no destination outputs for this. And if we go up here to zone temp, there's all the ones that were down here. Now I'll go on to zone set point. That's only has one. I'm going to change that to my network set point. And zone humidity, I'm sure we're just monitoring. So it's not going anywhere, and I won't do anything with this. Now, you could delete these out one by one. But if you do that, it will maintain the stat in the controller. So if you do that, you'll eventually get a fault flash on the controller. The way you want to delete out a network controller, network stat, is come up here to define hardware. And then we'll find zone sensor right here and we'll delete it. And all these will go away. Close. Boom. You see they all went away. So now let's just define hardware, or I'm going into a CVM 3050. Point assignments works for me. It is address 4. I'm going to do I'm going to do 2004 and hit close. Now I'll go ahead and transfer this down to that controller. I'm not going to save it because that just saves it to my computer. I am going through a JCI to download this. That was done in the previous video, connecting to controllers. If you haven't watched that, you want to know how to connect to a controller through a JCI, go watch it. I'll go ahead and commission afterwards. That way we can see all our points and make sure everything's working. We're at 99%. 99% means the program is downloaded fully to the controller. We're waiting for the controller to do a restart and send back the AOK back to CCT saying, yes, I have the new program. There we go. Now we have the new program in there. We go up here to our set points. You see we have live values coming through. We have a 73-degree set point right here, 66-degree temperature. Let's change the set point. I will drop it down to 71 degrees. Once this goes through, it'll change here. There is a slight delay. The stat has to send it to the first controller, then the first controller has to send it to this controller. And there is still a slight delay in CCT. There we go, 71 degrees. So that's how you do peer-to-peer, at least the pull method, through the controller. How we would do the push method is we would create network outputs over here on the one that we wanted to push from. We would create a network input over on the one that we want to push to, and we would just do the opposite. We'd set up all the peer-to-peer on the outputs of the controller pushing out the information. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to the next class.